Welcome to Book Club. It is lovely to have you here. So it's 2023, and at the start of each year, I tune in to get kind of a read on the energy of that year. And at the beginning of this year, it was really clear this is a year for authenticity. The message that kept coming to me was 2023 is the year to be authentically me. And that applies to all of us across the board. If it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't resonate with somebody, no worries. But the opportunity to do that is there. It is also a year of mastery. You will have heard me say, we are now seasoned players. We are in year 3 of this thing. Of course, it has all been going on for much longer. We have possibly done all this before, but in our current collective experience, within this moment, we are 3 years into this thing. Whatever this thing is for you, it doesn't even actually have to be the same thing in order for you to get benefit from this book club. But we are seasoned players, and it is time for conscious mastery. Don't be overwhelmed by that word mastery. Master is simply another word for teacher, and mastery is simply another word for competence. So it's time for us to be in conscious practice of mastery. Competence over what? In your personal time, space, you're going to read this book chapter by chapter and apply it to your personal life. That is you practicing mastery over your immediate environment, over your internal world. And then we will come together once a week and we will apply the principles of the book to mastery over competence over the external world. It is no accident that you are here at this time. It is no accident that you are here right now listening to me talk about this. You have a place within the current transformation that is occurring. And the good news is you do not have to do anything more than to just be more and more authentically yourself. This is all that is required of you. All right, so a little bit about the book in case you don't know the background. 2018, I was 4 chapters into a completely different book and I stalled. It just wasn't shifting, it wasn't moving, and I was really confused. And I was frustrated and a bit annoyed. So I grabbed pen and paper, I went to one of the local gardens up here, I sat underneath my favourite pine tree, and I said out to universe, God, source, right, if you want me to write a book, I want the title and the chapters. And next minute I wrote, set the tone, nothing can change until you do. And I had not had that title in my mind before at all. And then I wrote all the chapters and the chapter names. And I came home, I wrote the chapter titles on bits of paper, I put them across my dining table, and then I started writing everything I knew about each one of those headings, placed it under it, and there was my book outline. Now, what is in this book, I know. I know this stuff back to front. I've lived it, I practice it, I teach this to clients. But set the tone, I really didn't know what that meant besides what we kind of all know what that means. That is actually something that has become more and more powerfully clear what that really means. And so this is also my intention with this book club. Yes, we're going to go through chapter by chapter. Yes, we're going to apply it to our collective experience, to our external world, how we interact with that, how we interface with that. I'm going to keep reminding you, nothing can change until you do. That is a very powerful message that is through each and every chapter of this book. but we're also really going to explore just how profoundly we set the tone. As I understand that more and more, as you understand it more and more, as you get realizations on that, this is really how we will come into our power. So, chapter 1 today. Chapter 1 is really all about power. Now, some of the chapters are going to be meatier than others, but we need to start with a foundation. Don't underestimate the power of a foundation. Without one, you can't build on it. Without a very strong and firm and clear foundation internally inside of you, the outside is always going to be able to rock you. The outside is going to be able to bring you to your knees if you don't have a good foundation. So today, it's not going to be a big one, but it's going to be all about power and remembering how we set the tone with our power. So within that chapter, I talk about, your basket and how you're giving power away each day. How much have the last 3 years been a masterclass in power? Who has it? How much do they have? Who has power over us? Do we have any power? I think no matter where you were on a spectrum of feeling within your power, that most likely moved over the last 3 years. So I want to start off with, let's start off with a practical thing that I would like you to do. I'm going to tell you what I want you to do, and then you can pause the video while you do it and then come back. So I would like you to write down all the people or the things that you feel have had power over you in the last few years and may still be having power over you at this point in time. Whether it's your employer, whether you feel family members, whether you community, whatever, just pause the video and write down all of the things and the people that you feel have had and still have power over you at this point in time. This is not a trick thing. I'm not going to come back. Firstly, only you will see what you wrote. And secondly, do it as honestly as you can. The more honestly you do these practices, the more clear it will become, the more you will uncover, the more you will be able to step into your authentic self as you learn to hold space for yourself. So there's no right or wrong here. You're not going to come back and I'm going to go, caught you out. These people don't really have power over you. Of course we know that, but let's just meet ourselves where we are. So pause the video and come back when you've done it. Okay, so I want to start off with clarifying the difference between ego power and real power. So ego power, ego thinks, and we are going to explore ego in really, in a lot of depth as we go through the book. But whatever your understanding of it is now, doesn't matter. Ego power is power over. So ego feels like it has power when it can manipulate a situation, when it can manipulate a person, when it can be in charge, when it says, right, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening. Okay, that's power. Real power is power within. Power within ourselves, power in our internal environment, but also power within a situation. Power within an environment that does not change depending on the environment. Real power it's not determined, it's not dependent on something outside. Okay, so this is where on page 14 I have written, it's about 3/4 of the way down, I always have the power, no one outside of me has any power over me. I always have the power, no one outside of me has any power over me. If you have not highlighted that in your book, do. If you haven't written it down, do. Right? Write it in a lot of spots, keep it. It's a pretty pie in the sky statement, right? You're going to be somewhere on a spectrum of feeling like, yeah, okay, that's the truth. I kind of feel the truth of that. But how? Okay. If you go into how, if you immediately go into how, you're in ego, because ego always wants the details. Let's not be so focused on the how right now, where you are going to know the how as we go on. But let's not focus on the how right now. Let's just really allow the truth of that to resonate. Let's really allow us to say, this is truth, and I am somewhere on a spectrum of actually being in practice, right? I'm practicing mastering this. So it's 2020, and you probably were in a better place with feeling in your power than you have over the last 3 years. Many things may have happened externally, internally, within your family, in the larger environment. It doesn't even really matter what view you hold of this. Like, if you come across this video, please don't feel like, oh, well, what am I meant to? It doesn't matter who you are. There has been a shift in power for you. Whether that is you spending a lot of time in fear, whether that is you being excluded from certain things, whether that is you changing your mind, whether that is you feeling bullied or coerced or whatever, there has been a shift in how much power we feel like we are in. And so I want you to have a look at your list that you've written down. And I want you to do this. I want you to I want you to put a journal. I want you in your journal to put a rating of where you are with that statement right now. So 0 would be, nope, it doesn't even make sense to me. And a 10 would be, yes, I live and breathe this all day, every day, right? So the statement is, I always have the power. No one outside of me has any power over me. And I want you to put a rating right now, where you are right now, not where you feel you should be, not where you'd like to be, where you are right now. If 0 is, nope, can't even get that to make sense of how I could live that. And 10 is, yep, live and breathe it every day. Okay, where are you? I want you to rate that. Okay, now I want you to go back to your list. And I want you to have a look at what you wrote in that list, and you can keep adding to it. It doesn't have to be a complete thing. If right now you're in a bit of a hurry, or right now you can just let it, over the next few days, you could add to that list. I want you to have a think about how much these people and these events are controlling in your day, in your life, in your thoughts. So I want you to rate them as well. From 0, no power at all, to 10 out of 10, daily. They are daily coming into your mind. They are daily coming into your conversations. They are daily making you feel a certain way. They are daily impacting you in some way. Each thing or situation that you wrote in the list of things that you feel over the last 3 years have had power over you, still do to this day, or don't so much anymore, it doesn't matter where you are right now. I want you to mark them from 0, no power at all, to 10 would be daily. Okay. I want you to know there's a strong correlation between how highly you're rating the things on your list and how low the rating is for the statement, I always have the power, no one outside of me has any. Of course, it's completely, makes sense that the more that you feel that outside forces have power over you, and I'm not saying feel in a way of like, well, it's not real. Okay, we're not judging it. The more things that are on a list, the more people that are on a list of having power over you, it makes complete sense that the lower you're going to rate the statement, I always have the power, no one outside of me has any power over me. Right now, I want you just to have that rating in front of you, and I just want you to have that list and that statement in front of you. We don't have to do anything more with it right now than this. Here is what I would like you to start practicing. Start practicing it with the things that are on that list and then expand it out into your everyday. So pick a person on the list, pick an event on the list. If you have a person, it's probably easier, but whatever's on the list, pick whatever jumps out at you that might be the highest rating. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to see that person standing in front of you, or I want you to see that say it's your workplace, see your workplace in front of you. If it's a particular situation, see that in front of you. And I want you to see that person holding a ball, a glowing golden ball that has your name on it and then the word power. So my person would be holding a glowing ball with Sabina's power written on it. You would have Georgina's power. You would have Peter's power. You would have Annette's power. Whatever your name is, you see that on it and power. And you see a golden glowing ball. If it's not a person and it's an environment, then see your work desk and the ball is on your work desk. You could see the news and the newsreader is holding that glowing golden ball and your power written, your name and the word power. So in my scenario, the person, the glowing golden ball says Sabina's power. I want you to now, within your mind, go up to that person, go up to that thing, wherever that ball of power is. I want you to take it from that person and I want you to say, that's mine. I'm just going to take it back. Thank you. Okay, that's mine. I'm going to take it back. Thank you. Or whatever feels right for you, but you're going to take it back and you're going to go, oh, that's mine. You're going to receive it and have it back in your hands, see it in your hands. I want you to do this every single time for the next week, every opportunity you get, and life will bring you so much chance to practice. Any tools, any tips, any practical things we do, please don't stress about them. Please don't get to the end of your day and go, oh, what was I meant to do? Bring them to your everyday. I want you to be living these things. This is not something you have to do outside of your life. This is something you bring into your life. This is something you can practice easily. You're going through your day, you're at the supermarket, and there's still an X on the floor of where you should stand, and it triggers you. You close your eyes, you see a golden ball down on that cross. You see it says Martha's power. You pick it up. You in your mind, will take a second. That's mine. Oops, that's mine. Thank you. And you take it back into your hands. You see someone wearing a mask. You have somebody have a conversation that's triggering. You hear the news. Whatever, anything that makes you feel like you don't have your power. Something that you hear about what might come in the future. Something that you hear about finances, banks, health, hospitals, anything that makes you feel like you're not in your power, anything that makes you feel frightened, anything that's triggering, close your eyes. You can do it with your eyes open if you're in front of somebody. It'll take you a millisecond. When you get better at it, you'll be able to do it in a second. It is about recognizing that that person can only have your power if you give it to them, and it is about consciously claiming it back. And it is about doing it as many times a day as you need. It is about really consciously being in your power. So that is the practical thing that I want you to focus on this week. The other thing I wanted to share with you about the book for this week, it's on page 16, and it's where I talk about what ego tells us about each situation, because ego does not feel in its power unless it has power over. And so ego spends a lot of time telling us, trying to convince us that we're not in our power, okay? Ego is kind of our victim mind. Next week, we're going to talk a lot about ego. But for now, just know ego is kind of stuck in that victim mentality. It tries to convince us that we have no power. So on page 16, I've said that often what ego tells us about a situation, a relationship, or a challenge that we find ourselves in, it will tell us one of these or all of these. It's someone else's fault. You can't change this. So this is ego talking to us. You can't change this. Something or someone else has to change before this can be different. 3, you aren't enough. You don't deserve this. Even if this one is not so obvious to you, I promise that on some level it's swirling around in each one of us, and particularly with certain topics. And number 4, someone else holds a key piece of your puzzle, and until they do a certain thing, or until they hand that piece back to you, you cannot live the life you want. Go to your book. If you're not currently reading this along with me, have a read over those 4 things. And here's what I want you to also do during this week. I want you to start recognizing how much this has been a message from the media, from the government, from many places and spaces. I want you just to get familiar with hearing when someone is telling us it's someone else's fault. You can't change this. Someone or something else must change before this can be different. How much have you heard that in the last 3 years? You aren't enough. You don't deserve this. Someone else holds a key piece of your puzzle, and until they do a certain thing, or until they hand that piece back to you, you cannot live the life you want. It does not matter what your view over the last 3 years is. Just recognize where elements of this are being encouraged for you to believe the truth of. Now, not just the media. When you're on social media, certain accounts, messaging that is given to you on social media as much as media, messaging that is given to you from family members, messaging that is given to you from community messages, messages that just anywhere. All I want you to do at this point in time is, if you hear messaging of like, well, that's that person's fault, and that's the fault of the government, and that's the fault of the doctors, and that's the fault of the people that voted that way, and that's the fault of whatever, or, well, we can't change this. There's no changing this, so there's no point. Get a lot of that in places and spaces where you would expect that people would be reminding you of your power. You're not enough, you don't deserve this. There was a lot of messaging of that. Well, if you all do this, then we can have this freedom. If you all do that, then we can do that. There was a lot of that, but you will find it in many places and spaces. Someone else holds a key piece of the puzzle. Well, if the asleep people would just wake up, and if the left would just stop doing this, and if the right would just stop doing that, and if the this and the that and that person, and if that person, and if we could just get that person, and if we can just get them to disclose this, and if we can just vote them out, and if we can just vote them in, and if we can just, and if we can just, and if we can just. And every time you hear that messaging, every time you believe that messaging, every time you yourself tell yourself that messaging, okay, because this will also be from you to you, you are actually actively taking yourself out of your power and placing yourself into a victim mentality. So they're the 2 things for this week. Focusing on power, consciously reminding ourselves to be in our power. Start to become aware of where your thoughts go, right? So it's Wednesday morning, it's 10 a.m, you're having a coffee, and your mind goes to something that somebody said yesterday. It's triggering, it's upsetting, it's whatever, it doesn't feel empowering, close your eyes, see that person holding a golden ball with your power written on it, take it back from them and say, that's mine, thank you. And see yourself, feel yourself holding it and having taken it back. You're going to do that at every opportunity. And the second thing that you're going to do is you're going to start to become aware where the 4 things you will need to look at it, read through it yourself on page 16, where you're encountering that, where the messaging is actually encouraging you to be outside of your power. Don't need to do anything about it, just need to be aware. Being aware of something like that, being aware of, oh, look, they're trying to convince me that this needs to happen before I could be happy, or this needs to happen before I can be healthy, or this needs to happen before I can be free, or this needs to happen before we can all kind of live in this way or that way or whatever, right? Just the recognition of it, the being conscious of it. I see what you're doing. Oh, I see what they're doing. You're just going to get really good at being aware and being conscious and seeing things for what they are. I don't want you to take the next step and go, so why, or does that mean they're trying to manipulate me, or is this a sinister thing? Just simply see it. And if it is a social media channel that you're following and you're really regularly getting messaging of it's someone else's fault, you're really regularly getting messages of something or someone or some other group holds a key piece of the puzzle, and until that changes, we cannot be in our power. If you're regularly getting that message from them, then you might want to have a think about whether you want to continue to follow or listen to that channel, to that person, to that show, to that whatever. Okay? So, ego power, power over, it's very controlling, it's manipulative. I need this to be this way so that I can feel I am in my power. That's never going to be real. That's never going to be real, because everything outside of you will always be able to pull the rug out from under you. Real power is power within a situation. We're going to build on that. We're going to build on that. Just know that for now. Know that for this week. And then the 2 exercises that I told you to do. Within your own life, as you read each chapter, you're going to focus on the micro. When we come together for these videos, we will bring it to the macro, okay? But both are equally important. So I hope this has been helpful. I would love feedback under the video, would be great. Questions in particular that you have, if they are on anything I've said about the exercise, if they're on anything collective that I've said, please feel free. Questions within your own life. This is why we're doing the 2 lives. I don't know if I have the dates written here. I will put them in the description. We're going to do 2 live Q&As, one in week 5 and one in week 10. They're going to be on the Sunday of that week, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That is a time for you to ask me your personal things. That is not going to get recorded. So you need to let me know your email address if you would like to be sent the link to that and be included in that. I will put my email address underneath this, and so you can email me with your email address. So anything that's coming up personally within your immediate life, write it down, keep it, and bring it to that live. We will cover chapters 1 to 5 on week 5, and then chapters 5 to 10 on week 10. All right. I would love to know how this is helpful for you throughout the week. So make sure to tag me on Instagram if you're having realizations, insights, your practice, how you're finding it, or on here. All right. Much love. Have a wonderful week, and we'll be back here next Tuesday for chapter 2.